You're blocking my view, sweetheart. Move. Richard Whitmore III's hand shoves Amara Baptiste's shoulder hard. She stumbles. Her leather portfolio crashes against the marble floor, exploding documents across the Meridian Club's entrance. 40 tech executives freeze mid-conversation. Phone cameras snap up instantly. The woman in the understated navy blazer drops to her knees, scrambling for scattered papers. Each page bears Baptiste Digital, $900 million acquisition proposal in bold letters. Richard steps on one deliberately, grinding his Italian leather sole across the signature line. "Security!" Priscilla Whitmore shrieks. "Someone let the help through the wrong entrance!" Laughter ripples through the crowd. Amara's hands shake not from humiliation, but from restraint. A $180,000 Patek Philippe glints on her wrist as she gathers the final contract page. The Whitmores miss it completely. She rises slowly, meeting Richard's smug gaze with deadly calm. "Have you ever been treated like you don't belong? This CEO's revenge will shock you." The Meridian Club's crystal chandelier cast harsh shadows across Richard Whitmore's angular face. His gray eyes swept over Amara with practiced dismissal, the same look he'd perfected during 40 years of board meetings and country club dinners. "I've been a member here for 30 years, he announced to the gathering crowd. "I know everyone who belongs." Priscilla Whitmore glided closer, her Hermes heels clicking against marble. Diamond earrings caught the light as she positioned herself between Amara and a cluster of venture capitalists. The gesture was subtle, but unmistakable, a human barrier. "Darling, she's obviously lost." Priscilla's voice dripped false concern. "The staff entrance is around back." Through the kitchen, Amara straightened the papers in her hands. Her movements remained fluid, controlled. No defensive posturing, no raised voice. Just eerie calm that made several onlookers shift uncomfortably. "I see," she said quietly. "Thank you for the clarification." Jackson Whitmore, 28 and permanently attached to his phone, had been recording since the collision. His verified Instagram account, 2.3 million followers, captured every angle. The live stream counter ticked upward, 15,000 viewers, then 25,000. "This is so awkward," he whispered to his camera. "Some lady crashed our family's reception and Dad's handling it." Comments flooded the screen faster than he could read them. "Why are they being so mean? She seems nice, though. This is giving me secondhand embarrassment. Your dad's kinda aggressive, Ngil." But Jackson kept filming. Drama meant engagement. Engagement meant influence. A security guard materialized beside Richard Tall, broad-shouldered, radio crackling. His name tag read Morrison. Behind him, a second guard approached through the crowd. "Sir?" Morrison's voice carried military precision. "We received a complaint about an unauthorized person." Richard nodded toward Amara. "She wandered in somehow. Not sure how security missed her, but..." He let the sentence hang. The implication was clear. Amara reached into her blazer pocket. Several people tensed, but she only withdrew her phone. A sleek iPhone 15 Pro Max in a leather case. As she swiped to unlock it, a Platinum American Express Centurion card became visible through the case's transparent window. The Centurion card invitation only, $10,000 annual fee, no preset spending limit. Fewer than 100,000 people worldwide qualified. None of the Whitmores noticed. "Excuse me one moment," Amara said, stepping slightly away from the group. Her voice remained conversational as she placed the call. "Cancel the 3 o'clock. Yes, all of it." She listened briefly, then added, "Send the car around." 5 minutes. The call lasted 20 seconds. When she returned her attention to the Whitmores, that same unsettling calm had deepened. Harrison Webb, the Meridian Club's general manager, approached through the crowd. His usually perfect composure showed cracks, sweat beaded on his forehead despite the air conditioning. He'd received a phone call during Amara's brief conversation. The caller had asked very specific questions about member protocols and discrimination policies. Mr. Whitmore, Webb began carefully. Perhaps we should discuss this privately? Richard waved him off. Nothing to discuss, Harrison. Simple misunderstanding. She'll be leaving shortly. But Webb's eyes kept darting to Amara, recognition dawning. He'd seen her name on certain documents that crossed his desk. Very expensive documents. Rebecca, technology reporter for TechCrunch, had been observing from across the room. She'd initially come to cover the Meridian Club's annual Innovation Summit, but this interaction proved far more interesting. Her Twitter thread was already gaining traction. Thread, watching a really uncomfortable situation unfold at Tech Summit. Billionaire family publicly confronting black woman they assume doesn't belong. She's handling it with incredible grace, but this is hard to watch. 1/7 inch. The thread gained 50 retweets in 3 minutes. Other journalists began paying attention. Meanwhile, Jackson's live stream had exploded to 75,000 viewers. His comment section became a battlefield. Your family looks really bad right now. Why doesn't she just show her invitation? She's way too calm. Something's off. Delete this Jackson. But Jackson was addicted to the engagement metrics. He kept recording. Amara retrieved a first-class boarding pass that had fallen from her portfolio, not commercial first class, but private aviation. The logo read NetJets, with a departure time stamped just hours earlier. A red-eye flight from San Francisco, where Baptiste Digital's headquarters dominated 3 floors of a downtown skyscraper. Still, none of the Whitmores looked closely enough to notice. "Ma'am," Morrison said, his tone apologetic but firm, "I'm going to need you to come with us." The crowd had grown to 60 people, phones everywhere. The incident was being documented from multiple angles, uploaded to multiple platforms, spreading across multiple networks. Amara nodded to Morrison, then turned to Richard. "Before I go, Mr. Whitmore, might I have a word, privately?" Richard's laugh was sharp, dismissive. "What could you possibly have to say to me?" "It's about your Meridian account." Her voice remained steady. 5 minutes. Something in her tone made Richard pause. Not pleading, not desperate, just certain. Like someone who knew something he didn't. Harrison Webb stepped forward quickly. "We have a private conference room available." "Fine." Richard's jaw tightened. 5 minutes, then you leave. As they moved toward the hallway, Amara's phone buzzed with a text message. She glanced at it briefly, a message from her assistant confirming that the Tesla Model S Plaid was waiting outside. The same assistant who'd just transferred 3 very large contracts to a secure server, as instructed. The crowd watched them disappear down the marble corridor. Jackson kept his camera running, though his viewer count had plateaued at 85,000. In the comments, someone had started connecting dots. Wait, Baptiste Digital, isn't that the cloud company? Rebecca was already researching on her laptop, her Twitter thread gaining momentum. Other tech reporters were making calls, checking sources. Inside the crowd, murmurs began. Something felt wrong. The woman's composure, her expensive accessories, the way Webb had deferred to her request for privacy. But the Whitmores remained oblivious, confident in their assumptions. They had no idea they'd just humiliated the person who controlled their entire digital empire. The Meridian Club's private conference room felt smaller than its actual 12 by 16 dimensions. Mahogany panels absorbed sound while floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city's financial district. Richard Whitmore settled into the head chair with practiced authority, his platinum cufflinks catching afternoon light. Amara chose the seat directly across from him. She placed her leather portfolio on the polished table, then opened her laptop with deliberate precision. The screen's glow reflected off her face as data populated the display. "You have 4 minutes," Richard said, checking his Rolex submariner. Then security escorts you out. Outside the conference room, the crowd hadn't dispersed. If anything, it had grown. Jackson's live stream count hit 120,000 viewers, with engagement rates that made his usual content look amateur. The comment section moved too fast to follow. She's way too calm for someone about to get kicked out. Something's not adding up here. Why did the manager look scared? Baptiste Digital? I've heard that name. Rebecca had abandoned her original story entirely. Her laptop balanced on her knees as she fact-checked information about Baptiste Digital's client roster. What she found made her stomach drop. Harrison Webb paced near the conference room door, his phone pressed to his ear. The call he'd received during Amara's brief conversation had come from the club's legal counsel. Urgent questions about liability, discrimination policies, and something called vendor relationship protocols. "Yes, sir," Webb whispered into his phone. She requested the meeting. No, I don't think stopping it would be wise at this point. Back in the main reception area, Priscilla Whitmore held court among the venture capitalists' wives. Her voice carried just loud enough for bystanders to hear every calculated word. "Some people simply don't understand boundaries," she said, adjusting her Cartier bracelet. "We've built these institutions to maintain certain standards." The women around her nodded politely, but several checked their phones as notifications pinged. Twitter mentions, Instagram tags, LinkedIn messages asking if they'd seen the Meridian Club situation. Dr. Sarah Chen, founder of a biotech startup, scrolled through Rebecca's Twitter thread with growing discomfort. She'd experienced similar assumptions throughout her career, the quiet dismissals, the helpful redirections toward service entrances. "Priscilla," Dr. Chen said carefully, "do we actually know why she was here? Does it matter?" Priscilla's smile never wavered. "Richard handles these situations perfectly. Always has." But doubt was spreading through the crowd like smoke. Marcus Rodriguez, a venture partner at Andreessen Horowitz, had pulled up Baptiste Digital's website on his phone. The company's annual revenue figures made him blink twice. Their client testimonials read like a Fortune 500 directory. "Hey," he murmured to his colleague, "check this out." Inside the conference room, Amara's fingers moved across her laptop keyboard with surgical precision. She pulled up a dashboard displaying real-time data flows, server utilization rates, and network traffic patterns. "Your company processes approximately $12 billion annually," she began, her voice maintaining that same unsettling calm. 89% of those transactions flow through digital infrastructure. Richard's expression remained dismissive. "Everyone uses cloud services. So what? Your IT department contracts through Meridian Tech Partners for all external server management." Amara rotated her laptop screen toward him. "We own 67% of Meridian Tech Partners." The color drained from Richard's face as he stared at the screen. Contracts bearing his own signature. Purchase orders with his approval codes. Service-level agreements dated back 18 months. "That's..." He struggled for words. "That's impossible." Amara opened a second window showing live system monitoring. Whitmore Industries data flowing through Baptiste Digital's servers in real time. Customer transactions, inventory management, payroll processing, all of it running on infrastructure controlled by the woman he'd just humiliated. "Every credit card swipe at your retail locations," she continued, "every employee log into your corporate systems, every automated supply chain update, it all passes through our servers within 47 milliseconds. Richard's hands gripped the table edge. "You're lying." "I can demonstrate." Amara's cursor hovered over a control panel. "Would you like me to initiate a planned maintenance window?" "Just for 60 seconds, to show you the scope of our partnership." "No!" The word exploded from Richard's mouth. 60 seconds of downtime would cost Whitmore Industries approximately $800,000. During peak business hours, the figure doubled. Outside, Jackson's live stream had attracted attention from major tech influencers. His viewer count hit 180,000 as notifications flooded his phone. Screenshots of his video were spreading across TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Reddit simultaneously. The hashtag Meridian Club drama was trending in the San Francisco Bay Area. Number sign Whitmore Industries followed close behind. Rebecca's Twitter thread had exploded to 50,000 retweets. Her final tweet sent shockwaves through the tech community. Update: the woman being confronted is Amara Baptiste, founder/CEO of Baptiste Digital Solutions. If you use Netflix, Spotify, or shop at any major retailer, you've used her infrastructure. Whitmore Industries is one of her biggest clients. This is surreal. 17-inch venture capitalists in the crowd began checking their portfolios. Several firms had invested in companies that relied on Baptiste Digital's services. Others had considered acquisition offers from Whitmore Industries. Dr. Chen approached Harrison Webb with growing concern. "Harrison, do you know who that woman actually is?" Webb's face had gone ashen. "Dr. Chen, I really can't discuss." "She's Baptiste Digital's CEO," Dr. Chen interrupted. "Worth approximately $3 billion, and Richard just—" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Inside the conference room, Amara pulled up financial projections showing Whitmore Industries' dependency metrics. The numbers were staggering. 89% digital infrastructure reliance, 67% of customer data processing, 23,000 employees whose paychecks depended on systems Baptiste Digital maintained. "Your contract includes a 72-hour termination clause," she said quietly. "Standard industry practice for service-level agreement violations." Richard's mouth went dry. Service-level violations? "Discrimination against vendor executives falls under our amended vendor relationship protocols." Amara scrolled to a specific contract section highlighted in yellow. Implemented 6 months ago across all major accounts. The clause was there in black and white, buried in subsection 12.4 of the service agreement. Richard's signature appeared at the bottom of the page, dated and notarized. "You can't," he started, then stopped. The woman across from him controlled his company's digital lifeline. She absolutely could. Amara's phone buzzed with a text from her assistant. "Car ready. Legal team standing by. Press release drafted pending your go-ahead." She glanced at the message, then met Richard's increasingly panicked gaze. 3 minutes remaining," she said calmly. "Unless you'd prefer to continue this conversation with your board of directors present." Outside, Jackson's live stream had become a phenomenon. Tech executives were sharing the video internally at their companies. Business journalists were making calls to confirm details. Stock analysts were pulling up Whitmore Industries' trading data. The crowd in the main reception had grown silent, phones glowing as people absorbed the unfolding reality. Richard Whitmore III, billionaire industry titan, third-generation business leader, sat frozen in his chair, staring at the woman he'd dismissed as irrelevant. She controlled everything. Amara Baptiste reached into her portfolio and withdrew a single business card. She placed it on the mahogany table between them with the precision of a chess master positioning a queen. "Baptiste Digital Solutions, founder and CEO," Richard read aloud, his voice barely above a whisper. The card was understated cream-colored stock, minimal design, no flashy graphics. Just her name, title, and contact information. The same simplicity that defined everything about her appearance, her demeanor, her approach to this entire situation. Richard's hands trembled as he picked up the card. The reality crashed over him like ice water. He'd just publicly humiliated the founder of the company that kept his business empire functioning. "Your entire digital infrastructure," Amara said, pulling up a new screen on her laptop, runs on our servers. The display showed Whitmore Industries' system architecture in real time. Data flows pulsed like a heartbeat across network diagrams. Every transaction, every communication, every automated process, all of it dependent on Baptiste Digital's infrastructure. Your IT department thinks they contract with Meridian Tech Partners, she continued. They do. But Meridian Tech Partners is essentially a subsidiary now. We acquired controlling interest 18 months ago. Richard stared at the screen, watching his company's data move through systems he'd never known existed. Terabytes of information flowing seamlessly through Baptiste Digital's servers every hour. The acquisition wasn't publicized, Amara added. We prefer strategic partnerships over media attention. She opened another window showing contract details. Richard's signature appeared on dozens of document service agreements, infrastructure upgrades, security protocol updates, all approved by him personally, routed through his chief technology officer. $897 million, Amara said, highlighting a specific line item. Your annual contract value with our subsidiary companies. The number hit Richard like a physical blow. Nearly $900 million. More than Whitmore Industries spent on raw materials, employee salaries, or facility maintenance. But the direct relationship is actually larger. Another window opened, showing comprehensive financial data. When you include data processing, cloud storage, security services, and backup systems across all your subsidiary companies, the total reaches $1.2 billion annually. Richard's breath came in short gasps. Whitmore Industries' entire digital ecosystem, everything from customer-facing websites to internal payroll systems, depended on infrastructure controlled by the woman he'd just treated like an intruder. You process our credit card transactions? He asked weakly. Every single one. Your retail locations, your e-commerce platform, your corporate purchasing cards, all of it flows through our payment processing subsidiary. Amara's tone remained conversational, as if discussing weather patterns. We handle 847 million individual transactions for Whitmore Industries annually. She pulled up transaction logs showing real-time credit card processing. Thousands of purchases per minute across Whitmore's retail empire, each one passing through Baptiste Digital's secure servers. Your customer database? Richard's voice cracked. Stored on our servers, backed up to our secondary facilities in 3 different geographic regions. Amara scrolled through database schemas showing millions of customer records. We maintain 99.97% uptime for your customer data access. The implications kept expanding like concentric circles. Customer information, sales data, inventory management, supply chain coordination, employee records, all of it controlled by Baptiste Digital. Your son's live stream, Amara said, opening a browser window, currently has 220,000 viewers. Jackson's Instagram feed displayed on her screen. The viewer count continued climbing as notifications flooded the comment section. Tech industry leaders were joining the conversation. Journalists were asking questions. Stock market analysts were taking notes. Meridian Club drama is trending on Twitter, she continued, scrolling through the hashtag. Rebecca's thread has been retweeted 78,000 times in the past 20 minutes. Richard watched in horror as his family's public humiliation spread across social media in real time. Screenshots of Jackson's video appeared on LinkedIn, accompanied by heated discussions about workplace discrimination and corporate culture. Your stock price, Amara said, pulling up financial data, has dropped 14% since this interaction began. The trading chart showed Whitmore Industries' share price in free fall. Y had lost $420 million in market capitalization during the past 30 minutes of public relations disaster. Market analysts are calling it reputation risk materialization, she added, reading from a Bloomberg terminal feed. 3 major investment firms have issued hold recommendations pending clarification of corporate governance practices. Richard's empire was dissolving before his eyes, not through hostile takeovers or competitive disruption, but through his own arrogance and the viral power of social media documentation. "What do you want?" he whispered. Amara closed her laptop with deliberate precision. "I want to discuss renewal terms for our service agreement." "Renewal terms? Your current contract expires in 47 days. She reopened her portfolio and withdrew a thick document bound in blue covers. "I came here today to present renewal options for our continued partnership." Richard stared at the contract proposal, the same documents that had scattered across the marble floor when he'd shoved her. The papers he'd deliberately stepped on were worth nearly $1 billion in annual business. "Option 1, Amara said, opening the proposal to a marked page, maintains current service levels at a 12% annual increase. Standard industry rates for enterprise clients." Her finger traced down to Option 2. Option 2 involves expanded services, artificial intelligence integration, enhanced security protocols, real-time analytics dashboards, 18% increase, but significant operational improvements. She flipped to the final section. "Option 3 terminates the relationship entirely. 72-hour notice period, as specified in our current agreement." Richard's face went white. 72 hours? To migrate 847 million annual transactions, 23 terabytes of customer data, and complete integration with replacement infrastructure. Amara's tone remained neutral. "Your IT team estimates the transition would require 6 to 8 months. Without our systems, you'd experience complete operational shutdown." The mathematics were simple and devastating. Whitmore Industries processed $47 million in daily revenue. Complete shutdown for 6 months meant $8.5 billion in lost sales, plus the costs of emergency system migration, plus the permanent loss of customer confidence. "The third option also triggers our standard data retention policies," she continued. "Customer information remains on our servers for 18 months pending legal clearance for transfer." Richard realized he was trapped. Baptiste Digital didn't just provide services. They controlled the foundational infrastructure that made Whitmore Industries possible. Without them, his company would cease to exist within days. "There's also the matter of reputation management," Amara said quietly. "Your son's live stream has been viewed by 280,000 people. The video has been downloaded and archived by multiple news organizations." She paused, letting the implications settle. "Corporate accountability has become increasingly important to our client relationships. Board governance, executive behavior, public representation of company values." Richard understood. This wasn't just about service contracts anymore. It was about the fundamental question of whether Baptiste Digital wanted to continue doing business with executives who'd publicly humiliated their CEO. "I need to think," he said desperately. "Of course." Amara stood, collecting her materials with the same calm efficiency she'd maintained throughout the encounter. "Take all the time you need." She moved toward the door, then paused. "Oh, and Mr. Whitmore? Our board meeting is scheduled for tomorrow morning. They'll want to discuss client relationship protocols." The door closed behind her with a soft click, leaving Richard alone with the weight of his catastrophic mistake. Richard Whitmore sat alone in the conference room for exactly 90 seconds, staring at the business card that had just destroyed his world. His hands shook as he pulled out his phone and speed-dialed his chief technology officer. "David, I need you to tell me everything about our server contracts. Right now." Outside, Amara emerged from the hallway to find the reception area transformed. The crowd had tripled in size, with tech executives clustering around phones and laptops. Jackson's live stream had become a phenomenon, 340,000 viewers and climbing. Harrison Webb intercepted her immediately. "Miss Baptiste, I must apologize for—" "No apology necessary," she said calmly. "But I'll need a larger conference room." "This conversation is about to expand." Webb's face went pale. "Larger room?" The Whitmore Industries Board of Directors will be joining us via video conference in approximately 15 minutes. Amara checked her phone, along with legal counsel from both sides. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, a black Tesla Model S Plaid pulled up to the club's entrance. Amara's assistant, Marcus Thompson, emerged carrying a briefcase and tablet. Behind him, a second vehicle disgorged two attorneys from Baptiste Digital's legal team. The crowd parted as the legal entourage entered. Conversations died. Phone cameras pivoted to capture this new development. Rebecca's fingers flew across her laptop keyboard. Breaking! Baptiste Digital's legal team has arrived at Meridian Club. This is escalating beyond a simple misunderstanding. Emergency board meeting apparently convening. 18/infinity inches. Inside the small conference room, Richard's phone call with his CTO had confirmed his worst fears. David Morrison's voice carried barely controlled panic through the speaker. "Richard, we're completely dependent on their infrastructure." I had no idea about the Meridian acquisition. Our disaster recovery plans assume their systems remain operational. How long to migrate to different providers? 8 months minimum, maybe 12. We'd need to rebuild everything from scratch. Richard closed his eyes. What about downtime during migration? Complete operational shutdown. Every system, every transaction, every database query, it all stops. The mathematics were brutal. Whitmore Industries' daily revenue averaged $47 million. Complete shutdown for migration meant $11.5 billion in lost sales over 8 months. Add emergency consulting fees, customer compensation, and permanent market share loss, the total approached $20 billion. A soft knock interrupted his calculations. Harrison Webb opened the door partially. "Mr. Whitmore? Miss Baptiste has requested the Meridian boardroom for an expanded discussion." Richard's stomach dropped. The Meridian boardroom, the club's largest conference facility, equipped for high-stakes corporate negotiations. She wasn't just escalating, she was orchestrating a full corporate showdown. He followed Webb down marble corridors lined with oil paintings of industrial titans from previous centuries. Men who'd built empires through steel and oil and railroads. Men who'd never imagined their successors could be destroyed by lines of code and server farms. The Meridian boardroom stretched 40 feet end to end, dominated by a mahogany table that could seat 30 executives. Wall-mounted screens displayed financial markets in real time. NASDAQ, NYSE, international indices, all showing the ripple effects of the past hour's events. Amara sat at the table's head, her laptop connected to the room's presentation system. Multiple screens displayed Baptiste Digital's corporate dashboard, real-time data flows, client relationships, financial metrics. "Mr. Whitmore," she said without looking up from her screen. "Please take a seat." Richard chose a chair halfway down the table, close enough to see the displays but far enough to maintain some psychological distance. Marcus Thompson sat to Amara's right, tablets and documents arranged with military precision. "I've contacted your board of directors," Amara continued. "They'll be joining us via video conference momentarily, along with your legal counsel, your chief financial officer, and your head of investor relations." Richard's phone buzzed with an urgent text from board chair Elizabeth Harrison. "Emergency meeting initiated. Legal team en route. Do not sign anything until we arrive." The room's main screen flickered to life, displaying a conference call interface. 6 windows opened simultaneously, showing Whitmore Industries board members calling in from offices, homes, and cars. Their faces reflected varying degrees of confusion and alarm. "Good afternoon," Amara said, addressing the cameras with the same calm professionalism she'd maintained throughout. "Thank you for joining on short notice." Elizabeth Harrison's voice cut through the speakers. "Miss Baptiste, we understand there's been some kind of incident." "There's been a discrimination incident involving your CEO," Amara interrupted gently, "which has implications for our ongoing business relationship." She clicked to a presentation slide titled Whitmore Industries Dependency Analysis. The data was comprehensive and devastating. Infrastructure dependency, 89.3%. Server hosting, 100%. Baptiste Digital subsidiary. Data processing, 94% Baptiste Digital Systems. Payment processing, 97% Baptiste Digital subsidiary. Customer database, 100% Baptiste Digital servers. Backup systems, 100% Baptiste Digital facilities. Financial impact. Annual contract value, $897 million direct, $1.2 billion total ecosystem. Daily transaction volume, 2.3 million individual transactions. Revenue dependency, $47 million daily revenue at risk. Migration timeline, 8 to 12 months, minimum migration cost estimate, $2.8 billion plus operational losses. Board member David Chen leaned toward his camera. Are you saying you could shut down our entire operation? I'm saying your entire operation currently depends on our continued partnership, Amara replied. Today's incident raises questions about whether that partnership should continue. She clicked to the next slide. Reputation risk assessment. The screen filled with social media analytics. Jackson's live stream had reached 420,000 viewers. The video had been downloaded and reposted across platforms. Meridian Club drama was trending nationally, not just regionally. More damaging, stock market reaction. Whitmore Industries had lost $580 million in market capitalization since the incident began. Trading volume had spiked 340% as institutional investors reassessed their positions. Discrimination incidents create significant liability exposure for our client relationships, Amara continued. Our shareholders expect us to maintain partnerships with companies that share our values. Board member Sarah Rodriguez spoke up. What exactly are you proposing? Amara clicked to a new slide. Partnership reformation terms. The requirements were specific and non-negotiable. Immediate actions, 24 hours. Public apology from Richard Whitmore across all company channels, $50 million contribution to Minority Business Development Fund. Suspension of Richard Whitmore, pending bias, training completion, independent investigation of company culture practices. Systemic changes, 90 days. Vendor diversity requirement, 40% minority-owned suppliers. Executive bias training, quarterly assessments with external monitoring. Anonymous reporting system with third-party investigation protocols. Board diversity expansion, minimum 3 additional minority board members. Ongoing accountability, Amara Baptiste appointed to Whitmore Industries Board as independent director. Quarterly culture audits with public reporting. Contract renewal contingent on diversity metrics. Achievement, $100 million penalty clause for future discrimination incidents. The boardroom fell silent, except for the hum of air conditioning. Richard stared at the terms, each requirement designed to fundamentally reshape how Whitmore Industries operated. Elizabeth Harrison broke the silence. These terms are extensive. The alternative is contract termination with 72-hour notice, Amara replied. Your legal team can confirm the validity of our termination clauses. Richard's phone buzzed with a text from his legal counsel. Reviewed contracts. Termination clauses are ironclad. Discrimination triggers immediate termination rights. Board member Michael Torres leaned forward. The financial impact of immediate termination? Marcus Thompson consulted his tablet. Complete operational shutdown within 72 hours. Estimated total losses including migration costs, lost revenue, and market share damage, $23.7 billion over 12 months. The number hung in the air like a death sentence. However, Amara continued, successful completion of the reformation terms would strengthen our partnership significantly. We're prepared to offer expanded services, AI integration, and preferred client status worth an additional $400 million annually. She was offering both the stick and the carrot. Destruction or transformation. The choice was theirs. Richard looked around the conference table, then at the board members on screen. 40 years of building an empire, reduced to a binary decision: evolve or cease to exist. "How long do we have to decide?" he asked quietly. "The board vote is scheduled for tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time," Amara replied, "with or without your agreement." 22 hours later, Richard Whitmore III sat in his home office, staring at a blank video recording screen. His media consultant had positioned 3 cameras for optimal lighting. His crisis management team had drafted 7 versions of the apology script. His legal team had reviewed every word for liability implications. But the words came from him alone. "My name is Richard Whitmore, and I am the CEO of Whitmore Industries. Yesterday, I made a terrible mistake that reflected poorly on myself, my company, and the values we claim to represent." The video went live across all Whitmore Industries channels at exactly 8 a.m. Pacific time. LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, the company website, everywhere simultaneously. Within minutes, it had been shared thousands of times. "I publicly humiliated Amara Baptiste, the CEO of Baptiste Digital Solutions, based solely on assumptions about who belonged in a professional setting. My behavior was inexcusable, discriminatory, and completely contrary to the leadership standards our employees and stakeholders deserve." The comments section filled immediately, some supportive, others skeptical, many demanding concrete actions beyond words. At Baptiste Digital's headquarters, Amara watched the apology video from her corner office overlooking San Francisco Bay. Her leadership team had gathered for the 9 a.m. board meeting that would determine Whitmore Industries' fate. "Apology posted," Marcus Thompson reported. "Engagement rates are high. Media outlets are covering it as a developing story rather than just yesterday's news." Amara nodded. "Stock market reaction?" "Whitmore Industries up 8% in pre-market trading. Investors see the apology as damage control, but they're waiting for concrete actions." The conference room screens displayed real-time social media analytics. Public sentiment was cautiously optimistic but demanding proof of genuine change. The business community was watching closely. This case would set precedents for how discrimination incidents affected corporate partnerships. Priscilla Whitmore had already submitted her resignation from 3 nonprofit boards. Her Instagram account, once filled with charity galas and luxury lifestyle content, had been deactivated entirely. Jackson's social media presence had vanished overnight, his management team citing personal reflection time. But Amara wasn't interested in personal punishment. She wanted systemic change. "Bring up the implementation timeline," she instructed her team. The screen displayed a comprehensive 90-day transformation plan. Every requirement from yesterday's ultimatum had been broken down into measurable milestones with specific deadlines and accountability mechanisms. At Whitmore Industries headquarters, the emergency board meeting had been underway since 7 a.m. Elizabeth Harrison presided over a room filled with lawyers, executives, and crisis management consultants. "The $50 million contribution to the Minority Business Development Fund has been approved and will transfer today," she announced. "Richard has agreed to suspend himself from operational duties pending completion of bias training with Dr. Angela Rodriguez at Stanford's Executive Leadership Institute." Board member Sarah Rodriguez raised her hand. "What about the vendor diversity requirements?" CFO David Morrison consulted his tablet. "Our procurement team has identified 247 minority-owned suppliers who meet our technical requirements. Transitioning 40% of our vendor relationships will require renegotiating approximately $800 million in existing contracts, but it's feasible within the 90-day timeline." "And the board expansion?" "We've reached out to Dr. Maya Patel from MIT's AI Ethics Lab, James Washington from the Obama Foundation, and Dr. Lisa Chen from Stanford Business School. All three have expressed interest in joining our board. The transformation was already accelerating beyond Amara's original requirements. Whitmore Industries wasn't just complying. They were embracing the changes as a competitive advantage. By noon, the Minority Business Development Fund had received its $50 million contribution. The Baptiste Business Development Initiative, a nonprofit focused on supporting Black-owned enterprises, announced the largest single donation in its 15-year history. This contribution will provide startup capital for 500 minority-owned businesses over the next 3 years, announced the initiative's executive director during a press conference. It represents exactly the kind of corporate accountability that creates lasting change. The announcement triggered another wave of positive coverage. Business journalists were framing the story as a case study in effective crisis response and corporate responsibility. Meanwhile, Amara's team was implementing the monitoring systems that would ensure long-term accountability. The Bias Intervention app, developed by Baptiste Digital's AI division, would track communication patterns across Whitmore Industries' executive team and flag potentially discriminatory language in real time. The system learns from historical patterns of discrimination, explained Dr. Kevin Park, Baptiste Digital's chief AI officer. It doesn't just detect obvious slurs, it identifies subtle patterns of dismissal, interruption, and exclusion that often precede discriminatory actions. The vendor diversity program was already yielding unexpected benefits. Whitmore Industries' procurement team had discovered minority-owned suppliers offering superior services at competitive prices. The diversity requirement was driving innovation rather than limiting options. We found a Black-owned logistics company in Atlanta that can reduce our shipping costs by 12% while improving delivery times, reported Procurement Director Janet Walsh. We never would have considered them under our previous vendor selection process. The anonymous reporting system, managed by an external firm specializing in workplace culture assessment, received its first submissions within hours of launch. Most reports focused on historical incidents rather than current problems, suggesting employees felt safe to speak up about long-standing issues. 3 months later, the transformation results were remarkable. Whitmore Industries' quarterly culture audit showed measurable improvements across all key metrics. Employee satisfaction had increased 23%. Retention rates among minority employees had improved 34%. Customer satisfaction scores had reached all-time highs as improved vendor relationships enhanced service quality. The vendor diversity program had exceeded targets, reaching 47% minority-owned suppliers and generating $1.2 billion in annual contracts for minority-owned businesses. These partnerships had improved operational efficiency while reducing costs by 8% overall. Most importantly, the changes had become profitable. Whitmore Industries' stock price had not only recovered, but reached new highs as investors recognized the competitive advantages of inclusive business practices. Amara's appointment to the Whitmore Industries board had been unanimous. Her first board meeting focused on expanding the diversity initiatives to international markets. Our partnership with Baptiste Digital has become our strongest competitive advantage, Elizabeth Harrison reported to shareholders. The technology integration, vendor relationships, and cultural transformation have positioned us for sustained growth. Richard Whitmore had completed his bias training program and returned to operational duties, but with significantly changed perspectives. His quarterly reviews now included specific diversity and inclusion metrics alongside financial performance indicators. The most important lesson, he admitted during a Harvard Business Review interview, was understanding how unconscious bias affects business decisions. When you dismiss people based on assumptions, you miss opportunities for innovation and growth. The industry impact extended far beyond Whitmore Industries. Over 200 Fortune 500 companies had implemented similar vendor diversity requirements, citing the Baptiste standard as best practice for supplier relationships. The bias intervention app had been licensed to 47 companies, creating a new revenue stream for Baptiste Digital while spreading accountability mechanisms across multiple industries. 6 months after the Meridian Club incident, Amara was invited to speak at the World Economic Forum about stakeholder capitalism and corporate accountability. True change happens when we align business incentives with social progress, she told the audience of global business leaders. Discrimination isn't just morally wrong, it's economically inefficient. Companies that embrace diversity don't just do better, they perform better. The speech was viewed 2.3 million times online and cited in business schools worldwide as a model for strategic social change. Back at the Meridian Club, Harrison Webb had implemented comprehensive bias training for all staff members. The club's membership committee had diversified significantly, with new policies requiring demonstrated commitment to inclusive practices for membership approval. A plaque near the entrance read, "Excellence has no color, gender, or background. Everyone belongs here." The transformation was complete, but the monitoring continued. Monthly culture assessments, quarterly diversity audits, and annual accountability reviews ensured that the changes weren't temporary public relations gestures, but permanent operational improvements. Amara had proven that sustainable victory required changing systems, not just winning battles. The discrimination incident at the Meridian Club had become a catalyst for industry-wide transformation, demonstrating how strategic response could convert personal humiliation into systemic progress. The lesson resonated across corporate America. In an interconnected economy, treating people with dignity wasn't just ethical, it was essential for survival. 2 years after the Meridian Club incident, Amara Baptiste stood before a packed auditorium at the Global Leadership Summit in Davos. The audience included CEOs, government officials, and social impact leaders from 6 continents. Her keynote speech, Strategic Dignity, Building Accountability Through Economic Leverage, had become the most requested presentation in corporate leadership circles. "Transformation doesn't happen through anger," she said, her voice carrying the same calm authority that had defined her throughout the Whitmore crisis. "It happens through preparation, strategic thinking, and the patience to build systems that outlast individual personalities." In the audience, Richard Whitmore sat in the 3rd row, taking notes. His presence there represented one of the most remarkable corporate rehabilitation stories in modern business history. Whitmore Industries had become a case study in successful cultural transformation, winning the Corporate Diversity Leadership Award from the Harvard Business Review. The numbers told the story of systemic change. Baptiste Digital had grown to a valuation of $8.2 billion following their successful IPO 18 months earlier. Their client roster read like a Fortune 100 directory, with companies specifically seeking partnerships that demonstrated their commitment to inclusive business practices. Whitmore Industries had exceeded every diversity metric established in the original Reformation Agreement. Their vendor diversity program had generated $2.7 billion in annual contracts for minority-owned businesses. Employee retention among underrepresented groups had increased 67%. Customer satisfaction scores had reached industry-leading levels. More importantly, the financial results had been exceptional. The inclusive vendor relationships had improved operational efficiency while reducing costs. Innovation metrics had soared as diverse perspectives enhanced problem-solving capabilities. Stock performance had outpaced sector averages for 8 consecutive quarters. "The business case for dignity is overwhelming," Amara continued her keynote. "Companies that embrace inclusive practices don't just perform better ethically, they perform better financially." The Baptiste standard had become informal industry terminology for using economic leverage to drive social change. Over 300 major corporations had implemented similar accountability frameworks, creating a ripple effect across global supply chains. The Bias Intervention app, originally developed for Whitmore Industries, now served 89 Fortune 500 companies. The system had prevented an estimated 2,300 discrimination incidents before they escalated, saving companies millions in legal costs while protecting employees from hostile environments. Academic institutions had embraced the case study. Harvard Business School, Stanford Graduate School of Business, and Wharton had all developed coursework around the strategic use of stakeholder power to drive social progress. Dr. Angela Rodriguez, who had conducted Richard's bias training, had founded the Executive Accountability Institute based on lessons learned from the Whitmore transformation. The institute now provided leadership development for over 500 senior executives annually. But the most profound changes were cultural, rather than financial. The Meridian Club had become a model for inclusive professional organizations. Membership had diversified dramatically, with new policies ensuring equitable representation across industries and backgrounds. The club's scholarship program, funded by member contributions, provided networking opportunities for 150 minority business leaders annually. Jackson Whitmore had completed a gap year focused on social justice education before returning to complete his MBA with a concentration in corporate social responsibility. His thesis examined the long-term effects of viral discrimination incidents on corporate reputation and stakeholder relationships. Priscilla Whitmore had founded the Inclusive Philanthropy Alliance, redirecting her social influence toward supporting minority-owned businesses and social justice organizations. Her foundation had provided $25 million in grants to entrepreneurs from underrepresented communities. The personal transformations were as significant as the corporate ones. What I learned, Richard admitted during a panel discussion following Amara's keynote, was that unconscious bias wasn't just hurting the people I dismissed, it was hurting my company's performance. When you exclude talented people because of superficial assumptions, you exclude innovation, perspectives, and opportunities. The conversation had sparked a broader movement within the tech industry. The phrase, "who's not in the room," had become standard practice in strategic planning sessions, forcing leaders to consider whose voices and perspectives were missing from important decisions. These stories, black stories of strategic triumph, real-life stories of turning discrimination into systematic change, had inspired countless professionals to respond to bias with intelligence rather than emotion. The touching stories of personal and corporate transformation proved that lasting change required changing systems, not just individual minds. Amara's approach had created a template for converting moments of discrimination into opportunities for industry-wide progress. Her life stories demonstrated that the most powerful response to prejudice wasn't retaliation, but the patient work of building accountability mechanisms that prevented future incidents. The legacy extended beyond corporate boardrooms into classrooms, community organizations, and personal relationships. The principle of strategic dignity responding to discrimination by systematically dismantling the systems that enable it had influenced social justice strategies across multiple movements. Your voice matters, Amara concluded her keynote address. Your strategic response to injustice can create the change you want to see in the world. The standing ovation lasted 4 minutes. Have you ever been underestimated because of who you are? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience matters, and others need to hear how you turned discrimination into determination. What other Black stories and touching stories of professional triumph should we feature? Comment with suggestions for future videos about people who used strategic thinking to overcome bias and create systematic change. For more real-life stories of leaders who transformed discrimination into industry-wide progress, subscribe and hit the notification bell. These life stories of strategic dignity and corporate accountability need to be told, and your support helps us share them with the world. Share this video if you believe in using preparation and strategic thinking over emotional reactions when facing injustice. Help these stories reach others who need to see that sustainable change comes through building systems, not just winning battles.